Time now for this week's Goofy Award. This is the Canada Day edition. Now, before I get to the goofy, let me just say from personal experience that asking people to take a principled stand, or much worse, exposing when they don't, is never popular. I suspect this is going to be no different, despite the fact that I think the future of our country is at stake. First, let me ask you a question though. Did you ever think, even say 5 or 10 years ago, or even last month, that the largest chapter of Canada's biggest union would openly support a terrorist state like Iran, like they did last Sunday in a pro Iran protest? I mean, come on, this is the regime where Amnesty International documents the execution of political dissidents, homosexuals, and women who defy the government's strict Islamic morality code. Or did you think that you'd see a public picnic on Canada Day in the nation's capital called the Anti-Canada Day Rally? Actually, that's in Montreal, I think. Did you ever think you'd see the openly racist, anti-Semitic protests happening every week for 21 months in our biggest cities, along with the targeted places of worship, stores or daycares and schools, or the openly racist anti-Semitism on university campuses? Because I'll tell you, I certainly did not. And arguably, maybe the most shocking, is the open anti-Semitism on display in the NDP, especially in BC, and the Liberal Party, complete with 19 newly elected Liberal MPs who signed the VotePalestine.ca agenda that openly calls for the eradication of Israel. You know, I keep wondering, how did this happen? I mean, the answer is complicated, but one aspect's clear. Canada imported this hate. We imported this hate we see in the streets, in our public institutions. And it reflects a profound failure of leadership and a disastrous immigration and temporary visa system that clearly failed to properly vet newcomers. And they're going to do more of it. In doing so, the federal government has failed in its primary responsibility to protect its citizens. When I see the hate-filled protests and imams calling death to Jews and pro-Hamas protesters with known ties to Hamas-linked groups in Canada, I continue to ask, how does Canada benefit in any way from their presence in our country? I mean, it's a serious question that certainly no one in government wants to answer. And finally, and I say the most important, is that this is a tragic mistake to fail to appreciate that the anti-Israel, pro-Hamas, and now pro-Iran protests have been exposed as anti-Western protests against women's rights, gay rights, democratic rights, and individual freedom. You know, as Simon Koffler-Fogel, he's the CEO of the Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs, I think he correctly observes that the issue is far broader than the blatant anti-Semitism, but it's an attack on our values as Canadians. In quotes, it's really about the way the fundamental values of Western society are under assault in a way that they have never been. Many of us are sleepwalking through this challenge. I fear that we're going to wake up in the not too distant future and say, what the hell? How did this happen? End of quote. And I think it's also naive to think that we can continue to deceive ourselves that this is going to change. It'll pass. It'll go away. No, it has become worse over the last 21 months. No reason to suspect that won't escalate. This is an assault on Canadian values, and anyone who values them cannot afford to sit on the sidelines. On this Canada Day, there's much to be grateful for and proud of in our country, thanks to the hard work and dedication of previous generations. And it was along with that commitment to those Canadian values that make us who we are as Canadians. So you either think that's worth defending and fighting for, or you don't.